I'm a doctor for the NHS. I've been working with the NHS since 2018. And I was a pregnant doctor working during the pandemic at the time. And I'm here today because I think it's very important we bring the truth out. There have been a lot of errors during the pandemic, and it's cost human lives. A lot of people have died senselessly. When the pandemic happened earlier this year, I saw it go through all the different countries, and a part of me believed that our country will be prepared. We're a leading country in a lot of areas, especially in the field of science and medicine. So I thought nothing could go wrong in Great Britain. And I had faith in the government. I had faith that they would protect doctors and healthcare workers so that we could protect our patients. They're not showing us how many healthcare workers have been ill in ITU. They're not showing us how many domestic cleaners have died. They're not showing any of that. I am not allowed to speak to anybody in the media, and that made me very upset. When the first healthcare worker died, they died in a COVID ward. They were infected. And the only way they could have been infected was if they didn't have the right protection. In my husband's own hospital, a pregnant nurse died. This is one healthcare worker. To date, we have 620 healthcare workers who've died. Driving to work every day, I had a fear. I didn't know what I was exposing myself to or my unborn child to. And if something had happened, I would have never been able to forgive myself. I asked for risk assessments. I asked to be changed to a different department, but my concerns weren't being heard because there wasn't enough evidence to show that pregnant women won't be at any risk, or neither would their unborn child. And this is why I realized that not only am I being silenced, my own managers were following my social media. They were tracking everything I was saying, everything I was doing. I received phone calls with threats, and I was also told that if I didn't show up to my long shifts, I wouldn't be paid as I usually am. They don't know I'm coming today because they have told me that I have to go through them if I want to speak to any media. These are the people who are trying to create a sort of propaganda. They're putting out these briefings in the hospital and posters saying, we've had this many patients who are COVID positive and we've discharged them. But they're not showing the reality. And that's what they're fearful of. They're all just yes men to the government, and they are trying to hide the reality. If as doctors we're being silenced in our own hospitals, where does that leave us as a country? What kind of democracy are we living in? I mean, these are the kind of things that we would see in strict regimes like North Korea. This was happening within our own country. As a doctor, I was working during the pandemic until April. So January, February, March, April, these 4 months, not once did I get a mask fitting. I had nothing on that ward. It left me in a situation where I had to look at my own protection or the patient. And every single day, the guidelines were changing. One day we were told a full gown was okay. The next day we were told that a plastic apron is okay. A pinny was good enough to protect ourselves from a deadly virus. We knew that all of these changes in the guidelines were based on politics because they just didn't have the right amount of PPE, but nobody would ever use these words, we don't have enough. If I went into a patient who was COVID positive and he coughed in between the consultation, then what? Last year in July, when they did a full investigation into how much protective gear they have, they realized that there wasn't enough if a pandemic had hit us. Nothing was done. Within our own country, within the UK, there were so many manufacturers who had the PPE that we required. They were sitting in their warehouses. But our government decided to order PPE from Burma, from Turkey. And when they came, they were also faulty. When we looked into the PPE the government had, they were out of date. They were expired. As a doctor walking into your work, opening a surgical mask box, and seeing that the expiry date had a sticker replaced on top of it, how do you think that makes us feel? I think the biggest issue now is how can we help healthcare workers? Because this pandemic has taken a huge psychological toll on everybody. We've lost faith in our government. A lot of us have even lost the love that we had and the passion that we've had for our jobs. And I don't know if we can recover from this. The government have lied to us, and they have to be held accountable. And we have to seek justice for those families who've lost their loved ones. These ministers have blood on their hands. They have killed people, and they're still sitting in the same office. And this has to change.